on this day, I'm trying to be like one of the main things with posting on social media, if you want to have growth, is consistency. These platforms are not going to reward you with followers or pushing your content if they don't see that you're able to be consistent. And so I really like trying to take my own advice here and post consistently every week. So that's kind of how I look at my week. I like decide what day I want to post and then I back it out to what needs to be done.
And today we are joined with Andrea. Hi, Andrea.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's excited to have you as well. How are you doing today?
Doing really good. Excited to chat a little bit about influencer marketing.
Yes. Before we start, for all of our viewers and listeners who don't know you, who don't know where to find you, can you tell us a little bit about yourselves, who you are, and what you do?
Yeah, so basically, I have been helping my husband. His name's Color by Felix on Instagram. He's basically an art influencer, and I've helped him gain like millions of followers on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. I've been working with him for the last 7 years on this, and so we're doing social media every day. It's something I'm really passionate about, and yeah, my personal Instagram is it's.drea.k. But I haven't really spent that much time on my own. I mainly work with my husband.
Okay, so you mostly do your influencer work through your husband's side, right?
Yes, I have some clients too, but mainly my husband's uh, my biggest projects.
Really interesting because what we focus on is on growing work, right? And that is kind of your area of expertise. And I just wanted to sort of get some ideas from you of how some of our followers can grow with their own YouTube channels or TikTok accounts or whatever it is that they're trying to grow. I think we have a lot of people who want to grow on social media and really struggle to do it.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because over the last 7 years, like, I've seen so many different changes, happen, like, with algorithms and stuff like that, and you constantly have to be able to, like, adjust, but I would say one of the main things now that is working is just, like, documenting your journey as you go. It's more just doing something that and, like, this is also one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would give is to do something that you can see yourself doing, like, long term, something that you love. That's why it's really important to kinda, like, find your passion, and in that, you find what your niche is, because if you're just doing something for the money, you're gonna get really burnt out because it's not something you enjoy. And, when you're creating, you need to be able to create for the long term. Like I said, my husband's been doing this 7 years, and he's been creating content probably daily or at least, like, every other day, he's creating some kind of content. So, you really have to find something that you enjoy talking about that you can do, like, for the long term. And so I think that that would be like my number one tip for growth is just doing something that you can find a piece of content for like every day. And that sounds kind of crazy. Like people, when I initially say that, might be like, oh my gosh, that's so much work. But actually, like now, what's working really well on social is just like creating like 5 to 10 second clips and just putting like text over it related to your topic, you know? So it's like you can easily find a piece of content in every day.
Yeah, it's true. And I think like there's a sort of growing demand for a little bit more of like lighthearted and very not that curated content.
Mhm,
Where
exactly.
before we saw like there was I remember back in like 2016, 2015, there was an uprise for a little bit more of like more curated content and now it's
Totally.
completely the other way around.
Yes, totally. And I feel like even with my husband, like I'm always telling him, just create something like really fast that you can share, like a quick tip or something like that. It doesn't always need to be like this perfectly produced, like edited piece of content. but I think it's good to have a balance of both.
Yeah, because I think there obviously is still a space for curated and, beautifully edited and great content like that, and there's also a space for, something more simple and something more quick, and I think when you have both, you can appeal to a larger audience as well.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it's good to have, like, that, like, maybe have, like, your curated content as, like, your foundational things that you spend a lot of time on, but then you also need that filler content that will help you be able to, get posts out every day.
So I we actually found you and your channel first before we found your husband.
Oh, that's
And it's funny because you say like he's your biggest project, and he's, bigger than you and all of these things. But we actually found you first. So a lot of our questions were just kind of about how you have grown your own channels and, but what I wanna know about you is how do you manage, all of this on your own? Because you're obviously constantly working on his platform, which is the biggest one, the one that you guys are, like, investing most in, but you're also on the side working on yours, and, that's how we found you because you're actually pretty active on it. It's not like this abandoned dirt channel. So, I mean, I had no idea that you were, like, focused on something else. I if I when we found you, I would have genuinely just thought that, she's an influencer trying to grow her own platform. I had no idea with doing so to keep all of this, up to date, I feel like it can feel like a lot. I think a lot of our viewers, um and the people that come to Penji, they struggle with time management because a lot of them are business owners that have too much on their plate. And they feel like I can't do all this at once and then here you are doing all these things. Like how do you manage?
uh, well, I have gotten really good at managing my time, especially lately, just because I recently also became a mom.
Oh, congrats.
Oh my gosh, let me tell you, you will learn how to manage your time when you're a mom because you have no time. But, um, yeah, I would say that, like, I think just from seeing my husband's success, it really, like, made me realize how important it is to have social, like, and grow a presence there. Not only that, but I actually started my YouTube channel because my mom wanted to grow her social media and like she kept asking me all these questions and I was like, I'm just gonna start creating some of these videos for you that like hopefully can answer your questions. So I initially started my YouTube for that reason, just to answer my mom's questions as she was growing. She now has over 100,000 followers on Instagram. But, yeah, and so I started like that, and then, um, I kind of abandoned my channel a little bit just because I was going through pregnancy and birth, but recently picked it back up. But I basically, now have gotten my husband's business and social media to a point where it's kind of running itself. So now I've had more time to work on my own channel, and what I do is I basically just have a date where I'm like I put it on the calendar and I'm like, "Okay, I need to have a piece of content posted on this day." I'm trying to be like, one of the main things with posting on social media, if you wanna have growth, is consistency. These platforms are not gonna reward you with followers or pushing your content if they don't see that you're able to be consistent. And so I'm really like trying to take my own advice here and post consistently every week. And so basically I decide, okay, I'm posting on Fridays. I'm going to back it out. Okay, it's going to take me 2 days to edit this content. I need to back it out 2 days, put it on the calendar that I need to be editing a piece of content by Wednesday. And if I'm editing by Wednesday, then I need to have my content like recorded and planned by Tuesday at the latest. So that's kind of how I look at my week. I like decide what day I want to post and then I back it out to what needs to be done. Um, yeah.
That's, like, actually a pretty good, method because I feel like For me, I always have, like, different sort of pockets of things that I have to do, and I don't know, like, for especially for work, the more you have, like, projects and different things, and I'm always like, "Okay, let me just try to get through everything," and then towards the end of the day, I still have stuff that I've been wanting to get to that I don't get to.
Yeah, and so I actually, like, schedule out my week based on the content, and then even my days, like, when I get into work, the first thing I do is I sit down and I, like, write it on a sticky note or something. I'm like, "Okay, what are my top 3 priorities, like, I have to get done today," and everything else goes to the side, and, for me, I'm really, like, prioritizing content right now because I know how valuable it is.
Yeah.
Like, if celebrities have time to make content or, like, huge influencers are making YouTube videos, like, there's a reason that people are dedicating all this time to social.
Yeah, it is definitely also, like, I think the future in marketing your business, I think even if you have no interest in being on social media personally, if you have some sort of enterprise that you want to promote, I think social media presence is getting more and more important. Um, Even if you're like, a small creator and you just want to sell your tiny, your bakery business or something really simple like that, it's still going to need social media presence, I think, much more than it did back in the past where things were a little bit less. I would say, word of mouth was a lot more important, and, also we relied on different avenues of promoting things like TV ads and banners and things along those lines. So social is growing, and it is important to be aware of how it works and what to do with it and how to utilize it properly.
Yeah, exactly.
So, how did you end up working more on your husband's channel, your art? I know your husband does art, and I'm curious to know why you sort of became the social media marketer basically for him.
Yeah, so it's funny because I had no idea this would be my job, but, I was in school at the time. We got married really young. I was, like, 21 when we got married, and we got married, and I decided I wanted to go back to college. I had done, like, 2 years. I didn't finish the other 2, so, I started going back to college, and he was kinda doing odd jobs on the side to support us, and I was thinking like, okay, he's an artist. He's like doing odd jobs and stuff. Like I'm probably going to be the one like providing for the family because I'm going to school at to be a doctor at that time. And so I had just finished my bachelor's and at that time like he was doing his art on social media. Like I had been encouraging him. I don't know how like Instagram works, but I know people are like making money on it. This was like back in 2017 and I had no clue how people were making money, but I knew they were somehow. So I was like, "You should just start posting your art and, like, see what happens," you know? Um, and so his page started, like, growing really fast. Like, I think in the first year, he gained, like, 500,000 followers, and, I was like, "Okay, there must be something to this." And so at that point, I was deciding, do I go to grad school? I got accepted to grad school to become a doctor. And it was June and I was supposed to be going in September. And so at that moment, I was like, okay, I can either go to grad school and get in a bunch of debt, or I can try and help my husband with this and see like what happens with it. And so I decided to just follow my husband, try and help him make some money. And, it turned out to be the best choice ever, so
Oh, amazing. I think
yeah.
that's such a crazy story from like medicine to social media and how it's kind of just what your full-time job is and how you provide for a family is insane. And it really goes to show how much the world has changed because obviously this wasn't how things were in the past. And I think it's crazy to see that from people. Also, I think your role is quite interesting because we have a lot of people who struggle with, I would say, there's a lot of people who are good at what they do, right? Uh, for example, we as an outsourcing tool, essentially, right? Penji is for people who need to outsource graphic design, and that's what we're there for. We get a lot of people who are perhaps good at their own businesses, which could be, I don't know, like your husband who does art. They could be really good at art, but they're not good at marketing.
Yeah, totally.
They don't know how to market that art. You know, you have like a million art pieces, but you don't know how to make a website, right?
Exactly.
How to sell it, or you don't know how to do e-com, or you don't know how to put it on social media. There's like so many things. And that's where sort of people like you or platforms like us come in where, it's like, okay, you don't have to know graphic design. We can take over and you can focus on your business, which would be your restaurant, and you're a really good cook, right? And I think that's a very interesting because you're there to fill in a gap for your own family that also exists very much in the business world, which is, having that gap of, okay, I have a product, it's great, it's marketable. What do I do with it now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the hard part, actually, because, um, it takes a lot of trial and error. Even now, like, I tell people, like, "Yeah, I'm a social media expert," or whatever, but I'm still, like, if say I'm growing my channel, like, it doesn't mean that I can just skip all the baby steps that everyone else has to take. I still have to do the same thing, you know? I know how to get more views on a post, but I still have to, like, do the work, that
Film the post and make it. Yeah, you work on it.
exactly, so
Yeah, I mean, and I think, like, we've also come to, especially with TikTok nowadays, I think has really changed the sort of, like, uptick in short form content, and
mhm.
I've noticed how a lot of people have just sort of stumbled into fame, accidental fame, because they had this one video that went viral, and we've also noticed that a lot of people have been having a hard time keeping it because they weren't necessarily out to make money when they started making videos, and then once it's became lucrative, they were like, "Okay, I want to pursue this," but they don't know what to do with it. So,
Yeah.
so many people sort of, like, get on that train, and then they're really excited and then fall off, and then it's, sort of this sort of cycle of not being able to keep that consistency.
Yeah, and I think that that's also, like, a huge myth that people don't get is, like, Um, and something that we discovered really quickly because my husband would create a lot of videos that would go super viral, like millions and millions of views. And it's like, yeah, we would get like some sales and stuff like that, but we didn't really understand what the goal was from social media. And I think that that is the biggest mistake that creators are making now is that they don't know what to do with the attention. People want the attention, but once they get it, they don't really know what to do. And now that I've had the online business and all this, like, I realized that the number one goal is not actually virality, it's longevity. So it's more important to, like, be able to, like you said, build something that's gonna last. And so it's like, you want this attention, but then what are you turning it into? And for me, I think that the goal of social media is to get email list subscribers because if you can get email list subscribers, you're actually able to build like whatever you want because people on your email list, you can market any of your products or services to them. And in the end, what you're selling when you sell a business, especially an online business, is your email list.
Yeah, I think, like, for I what happens is that a lot of creators sort of just see it as like, "Oh, I'm gonna wanna make money from this," but, the goal is, okay, how are you gonna be making money from it? And for us as a brand, for example, we do sponsored content with influencers, right? We'll reach out to an influencer who what we think is good, and we'll sponsor their videos and everything, but what we're looking for, like you said, is that longevity, is that connection with an audience, because
Mhm.
we are aware that that audience is gonna be more inclined or interested in buying that product from us if that influencer that they're promoting is a good influencer, than if it's just a person who's getting a million views that are worth nothing.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So it's all about community.
Yeah,
That's where it starts.
yeah, because if you have a small community who is willing to listen, it's gonna be a lot more worthwhile than one that's just kind of there
Yeah.
dormant.
Mhm. Or even one that's, like, really niche, like, a lot of people think, like, "Oh, no one would care about this hobby or whatever it is that I do," you know? But there's, a lot of, like, smaller niches that are really strong. It's not necessarily about the numbers as it is, like, the strength of your community, I guess.
It's a cult following people.
Uh,
'Cause I've been surprised with that with, like, entertainment. Like, I've been a fan of, like, things like anime, I like, or things like books and TV shows and stuff like that, where I will watch this really obscure show that I feel like nobody knows, and I really wanna talk about it, but nobody has watched it, so I'll go online and see if there's anybody that has, like, seen this, when I will always find a fan base, even if it's, like, 20 people, but there's so many people who are, like, waiting for that next season, and then I'm gonna be number 21. There's always an audience for everything, I think, nowadays, and it's easier to connect with the internet, where, like, before, maybe those 20 people did exist, but we were all very far away from each other.
yeah, true.
Yeah, which is really interesting. But, I think what you have been doing is really cool, and, you've been able to sort of create a community for your husband and for a channel for him to put his work, which is really important. I think art, especially, like, nowadays, has sort of gotten a bigger space where you can promote it more, you can sell it more, you can get more of a following for it than we did back then. And it's really interesting that you've been able to make it a business, a life. And now that you're also sort of putting a little bit more work into your own, and I think you have a lot of knowledge that is really interesting to a lot of people who are trying to do what you do.
Thank you. Yeah. It's yeah, it's been a crazy journey, but I would say that I hope it can encourage someone that if we can do it with art, like, you can do it with anything.
Yeah, and I mean, you did it like you're a med student, and you went from that to doing great on social media. So it's obviously like something that anybody can, you know, try to do and try to learn from and try to grow from. And thankfully, I think social media is a platform that we all have access to nowadays. And it's one thing that we can all just sort of grab your phone and then make an account on whatever service you want and then post something.
Yeah, I think that that's also something that, um, maybe I'd give as a tip or, like, a piece of advice is that people, see people posting on social media and they're like, "Oh, that's easy," you know? And yeah, it technically is easy because, like you said, everyone has a phone now, everyone can do it. But I think that people give up too soon, and that's why a lot of people maybe start making content and then they, like, feel like their posts are not getting views and stuff like that. But, I would say just keep going. It takes a lot of time and, consistency to see results.
I think accessible is not equivalent to easy, right? Like,
Yeah.
social media is accessible to a lot of people, but it's not easy,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
We're proof of that. I mean, I have social media, but I'm not an influencer. I have like 10 followers, Yeah. Well, Andrea, it's been great talking to you, and I think
Yeah.
your your sort of insight is really interesting, and you have a really special journey with
Yeah.
how you sort of got into this world and into this space. For anybody that's watching, I know we introduced you towards the beginning, but is there any project that you wanna direct them to? Any sort of other service that you wanna promote or anything that you wanna talk to our audience where they can find you if they need more advice or even your husband, since he is your biggest project?
Well, my husband is Color by Felix, and then you can find me on YouTube or Instagram. It's Drea K.
Awesome. Yeah.
Mhm.
We'll be adding your links to all of our platforms so that they can also go and find you. And so that anybody that needs sort of more of your advice can go to you.
Perfect.
It's
Thank you
been
so much.
nice
It was so nice to meet you.
to meet you as well. And for all of our listeners, we'll see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.